The 2025 draft class is projected to be one of the best and deepest running back classes we have seen in a long time. And today, I'm bringing you 5 running backs currently in the NFL that you should be trading away for some 2025 first round picks here, or any picks in general, just to get your hands on maybe one of these running backs in 2025. Let's not waste any more time to get straight into it. Ollie Gordon, Quinshawn Junkins, Travion Henderson, Amarion Hamilton, Alshon Gentry are just some of the running backs that are incoming in the 2025 draft class. And I'll be honest with you, that's not even some of the names, all of the names that the Dynasty community are excited about. There are probably about 3 to 4 more names that other people are higher on that we haven't even seen so far. And this is projected one of the best running back classes that we've seen in a long time. And here is my first running back that you should be trying to sell high, pivot off of at the moment, to get a higher, maybe even a better talent that we're going to see. We're kind of seeing a massive influx of all these wide receivers coming in this past year and how that's going to be affecting the 2024 season. That's exactly what's going to be happening in 2025 at the running back position. And my first running back that you should be trying to pivot off of, or maybe trading, whatever the case may be, selling at the right time, is Isaiah Pacheco. And look, we have to really be aware of what we need to be doing with Isaiah Pacheco. Yes, he's going to his third year of the season, of his career, with the Kansas City Chiefs. And what he has done has been phenomenal. But on a points per game basis, that is valued currently as a first round pick, whether it's a late first round pick in 2025 or even in 2026, I want to be cashing in as much as possible. I mean, let's look at the first 2 years. In 2022, obviously, we didn't really see Isaiah Pacheco take off into the second half of the year. He was averaging 7.9 fantasy points per game. He was RB 44 on a points per game basis. But this past year, 15.3 was still a RB 15 on a points per game basis. And I'll be honest with you, and the RB 14 on a points per game basis, that's not necessarily, somebody I'm willing to hold on, specifically with all this murmurs and excitement for the 2025 draft class. Now, I would say this: if you're a competing team and you have Isaiah Pacheco, or you have a 25 first and you want to get somebody else that can kind of compete, I understand. I think you have to take this with a grain of salt, or within the context of your dynasty team, when you're listening to all these running backs that I'm going to be saying that you should be going out and trading away or trading for, essentially. And look, we saw it this past year where Isaiah Pacheco finished as RB 17 amongst running backs, not in a points per game basis. And he is once again valued as a late 25 first currently, according to the community. I'm not necessarily sure with the way he has been running, and we continue to see a decline in the second half of the season, specifically with Isaiah Pacheco, not necessarily in his usage, but more his production. His production is not going down. He's not being as efficient as he was in the second half of the season. I mean, 4.6 yards per carry, which is still really good. The rushing yards just under 1,000, 205 tokes. All that is great. But I think what we have to understand is the context that is going to be around him. This team, I think, clearly wants to go back. I would say you can argue they want to be more of a run-heavy team, but I would actually argue that they want to be more of a pass-heavy team, right? Travis Kelce gets a contract extension. He gets restructured. Rashee Rice, if he does stay on the field, what does that look like? They bring in Hollywood Brown. They bring in Xavier Worthy in the first round. They want to be a pass-heavy team, just like we saw in the past couple of years. They want to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL, which no question that they're going to be with Patrick Mahomes. But at the running back position, who is most vulnerable on this team? Who is most vulnerable to be replaced? We saw that they didn't even want to pay, Snead. They didn't want to pay Tyreek Hill. They get rid of both of these guys and they focus on Chris Jones, the premium opportunity for them to continue be elite in that position. Do they want to be elite in other positions at the end of 2025? And let's be honest here. Let's be completely honest. The Kansas City Chiefs are most likely going to be in the second half of the NFL draft. yes, these past couple years have been outliers where we saw Bijan Robinson go in the first round. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs go in the first round as top 10 running backs or top 12 running backs. That's normally an outlier. And at this very moment, I'm not saying there isn't a running back that is worth a first round pick, but if there is a running back that is worth a first round pick, it's most likely going to be at the end of the NFL draft. And once again, there are definitely outliers. You've seen the Saquon Barkleys, the CMCs going in the first round. Like I said, this past year, we saw Bijan Robinson, we saw Jahmyr Gibbs go in that first round. What if there is a Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs and you have the opportunity to get one of these guys, or maybe even an early second round type of running back like a Breece Hall? That's how deep the projection of this 2025 draft class is. And I want to be cashing in specifically, even if it's a late 25 first, because we have to also keep in mind, what are the quarterbacks that are going to be emerging? What about the wide receivers that are going to be emerging in this offense? Maybe there is a tight end, hypothetically, that is worth a first round pick. I'm not saying there is, right? I mean, I don't know everything about this 2025 draft class, but anything can happen when it comes down to emerging as a talent in college. And if I can potentially cash in on a 25 first for Isaiah Pacheco, once again, on a points per game basis, the highest finish he has is RB14. I'm willing to cash in on that immediately. Guys, have you always watched one of our live streams and say, hey, those guys are reviewing a Dynasty team, but I don't want to be signing up for a monthly service or a yearly service? We do have a new feature, a la carte feature. We can go and then go ahead and just pay a one-off service fee for us to go ahead and grade your Dynasty team. And what's great about this is that it's unlimited. You can donate as much money as you want for your Dynasty teams each month, and we can go ahead and review your Dynasty team. So just go to the Flock Fantasy website, whether you can sign up with the Mother Flocker tier or go to the a la carte service and get your Dynasty team reviewed as soon as possible without any hiccups going into the 2024 season. But not only that, you get all these other services that you see on your screen, our rankings, our personal DM, what we like to call the fantasy hotline, and so much more. So make sure you go to flockfantasy.com, select that Mother Flocker tier, and get 30% off and support the boys. All right, let's talk about Zamir White here. A lot of the community is loving Zamir White currently. I mean, if you look on the community rankings, RB19 as I'm recording this video, that means the community is continuously rising him up rankings and understanding that he is going to be going into a significant workload, which is great for your Dynasty team if you are in 1 year competing type of situation. But once again, this video is about pivoting, cashing in, and or trying to understand what the future market is going to potentially look like and what the market looks like currently right now. And when you look at Zamir White, who is going to be going into these opportunities that everyone is loving, where he's going to be getting, at least the projections, 15 plus touches a game, where the Las Vegas Raiders have been praising him, right? Antonio Pierce has been praising and saying, we're going to be running the ball the Raider way. Zamir White and that confidence at the running and at the head coach is going to be bumping up his value here. And as much as I love Zamir White, we have to understand that he has an injury history with 2 torn ACLs in the past in college. He does come from this Georgia backfield where he's been in a rotation. And yes, he's going to be the guy that's taking the ball, the first and second down and goal line guy. But can he easily lose his job? I think so. It may not be from Alexander Madison. It may not be from Dylan Labe. Maybe it's somebody else they bring in free agency when somebody gets cut. We've seen a lot of people talk about Khalil Herbert. Can he be available in somehow, some way? Once again, that's a big hypothetical. But basically what I'm trying to say is Zamir White is replaceable. And what he did in the second half of the season when Josh Jacobs got injured, it's phenomenal. I'm not discrediting that. He was efficient. He was getting the ball. He was toking it. He was essentially a league winner in that 4 or 5 span game at the end of the year. But at the same time, if I'm telling you, if you are a watcher right now and you currently have Zamir White and I say, hey, I have a 25 first, I'm a competing team. Here's a 25 first. Are you going to take that trade? You're going to say absolutely. Now, the other side of that coin is, what about a 25 first? You have Zamir White, and I have a 25 second, excuse me. So you have Zamir White, I have a 25 second. Are you willing to take that random 25 second? Me personally, I would be taking that random 25 second. Why? because I don't believe his value is going to be increasing going into the 2025 season. If it does, it probably increases one or two spots. He's currently valued as a 206 currently right now in a 2024 draft class. What about the 2025? He's currently valued as a mid 2025. Let's just say that mid 25 is a 206. He finishes the top 15 running back. He is going to be valued, in my opinion, that's going to be rising. Maybe the 202, the 203. Yeah, you get a couple extra spots in your draft, but that is not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things. And somebody who is easily replaceable, not only this year, but going into the 2025 draft class, and I can cash in on that right now with the opportunities that we've seen in the Flock Fantasy community. And I'll bring you some examples here. Right? Zamir White and a 26th third for Curtis Samuel and a 25 second. Give me that random 25 second in Curtis Samuel. Zamir White and a 25 fourth for Nick Chubb and a random 25 second. Give me that random 25 second. And look, I doubt this is doable, but Zamir White and a random 25 first. I doubt that is doable, but if you're somebody out there that is willing to give, or, you know, you have somebody in your league that's willing to pay a random 25 first because it believes Zamir White is going to be a league winner, let's do that right now. Okay, so once again, pivoting, trying to get these 25 draft picks. Once again, Ollie Gordon, Quinshawn Junkins, Travion Henderson, the list goes on. Of that, that's who you're, that random 25 first or second, because some of these guys could potentially be falling to the early second round of the 2025 class. Could potentially be, okay? So I'm going to be trying to pivot off of Zamir White. All right, editing Badaki here. I'm editing my video and going through it and listening through. And the whole time in this last take, I was saying the wrong player's name. Spoiler alert, the next player that you're going to be seeing is Kyren Williams. The problem is I was saying Kenneth Walker the whole time in replacement of Kyren Williams. The information is still correct. Everything that I brought is still correct. When I do talk about Kyren Williams, I just for some reason use Kenneth Walker's name the whole time. I am recording this video late at night and editing this out to get this out to you as soon as possible. So keep in mind as you are watching the next take. All right, and my last player on this list, I think we've heard a plethora of this player, whether it's buy or sell, or whatever the case may be, of videos that you might have seen from myself or Zach, and that is Kenneth Walker. Obviously, the biggest question mark here is what is this offense going to look like now that Blake Corum's here? And we've seen the high praise of Coach Speak Index talking of specifically of Sean McVay talking about Blake Corum and how he would like him to be utilized, or how he would like to see this offense move forward. And one of the biggest things that we have brought multiple times in this offseason is Sean McVay hasn't had a repeating top finish running back in a very long time. I think since Todd Gurley, if I'm not mistaken. And when you think of that, it really makes you question, does Sean McVay really have loyalty to Kenneth Walker? He drafted him, but he also drafted Blake Corum in the 3rd round, a guy who knows how to handle the workload. And is he going to be getting the pass catching opportunities? Who knows? But what I do know, what I do believe, is that Kenneth Walker may not be the lone soldier here. He may not be getting the ball, 20 times a game, almost like we saw this past year. Maybe not 20 times a game, 15 times a game is more realistic for Kenneth Walker. He's not going to be averaging, right? I mean, he's not going to be averaging over 21 fantasy points like we saw this past year. We're not going to be seeing that from Kenneth Walker. There's going to be a massive decrease. And when that decrease happens in fantasy points, it also happens in value in the community. And when you think of those values, when you think of that decrease, you're currently looking at the community right now for Kenneth Walker as a mid 24 first. Currently right now, if you were to sell Kenneth Walker for the 108, the 107, which once again, I highly doubt you can right now because of Blake Corum, but at a peak in the season, you're constantly drafting Roman Dunze higher. Maybe not you, but I would personally be taking Bo Nix higher than Kenneth Walker. And that may be a hot take because we believe in Bo Nix on this channel. But you understand what I'm saying. The pivot options and what that could potentially be happening and looking like when it does come down to Kyren Williams and Blake Corum going into the 2024 season. And look, I've always preferenced my videos and say this, even though I'm saying it's at the end of the video, it's not necessarily the talent, it's the situation. It's the situation that is questionable. It's the situation and how they can easily be replaceable. Isaiah Pacheco, we've seen where Andy Reid can come in and bring another running back in a heartbeat and then instantly change. But if they invest in a high draft capital running back, even though we've seen that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and he wasn't the guy, the talent in the 2025 draft class is significant. Same thing with Zamir White, right? I mean, late round draft pick. He was inherited from this head coaching staff, easily replaceable. And the same thing can be said with Kyren Williams, which I believe we're kind of already seeing the transition of not necessarily being replaceable, but splitting this backfield. And do you want another running back and going into 2025 where you're not confident what that workload is going to be looking like with a Blake Corum behind Kyren Williams? I'm not necessarily sure I personally want to be investing in someone like that. Of course, we all want the Jahmyr Gibbs and the Bijan Robinson and the Breece Halls and the Christian McCaffreys because we know they're the lone soldier there. We know they're the lone running back that's going to be getting all those opportunities. Even if it's not the lone shoulder or the lone running back, like, for example, Jahmyr Gibbs, we love the draft capital. The draft capital, the situation is all matters when it comes down to a long-term situation. There are definitely outliers, but for me, these are three guys that I'm willing to go ahead and pivot because of their draft capital. Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round, Kyren Williams, 6th round or 5th round, and then Zamir White, a 5th round draft pick. These are guys that are easily replaceable and can easily be reset at the running back market at any given time, especially with this deep 2025 running back class. Guys, good conversation. Let me know if there's any running backs that you would say, hey, I don't like Kyren Williams. Maybe I would do that for Rashad White. Maybe I'll do that for Josh Jacobs. So we can have more of a conversation about some of those guys in the comments, and comment down below if you disagree, and that's okay. Okay, so keep in mind, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's all love.